The university requires that I give you this security briefing, so we'll quickly go through these slides. First, before you travel, it's a good idea to register with the Department of State and Consular Services. The program is called Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Just go to travel.state.gov, click on Enroll in STEP, and fill out the information. You can create an account. And that way they can inform you if there are any changes, any concerns in the areas you'll be traveling in. You can also register your trip, go in and fill out the information where you'll be and when, and the consular services will be able to send you notifications if there's civil unrest or anything else that may happen. Then you can pay close attention to alerts that come up, what's happening in the particular cities that we're visiting. Another great service is the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, comes out with information about outbreaks or any other kinds of problems for travelers. You can just go to their site and click on the country you'll be traveling to and find out information about immunizations that are necessary, common diseases in the area, outbreaks and pandemics, food and water precautions, medications, and health tips. We shouldn't have many problems in Europe, but you never know. We will also be enrolling you, or have enrolled you, in a travel insurance program called GeoBlue. GeoBlue is included in the cost of your trip. GeoBlue is health insurance while you're abroad, it's evacuation insurance, and it's travel insurance just in case things are canceled. When you're traveling, regarding travel insurance, make sure that you have both international insurance, which is what GeoBlue is, and domestic insurance. That means your own personal health insurance. For when you need to come home, or if you need to come home. GeoBlue will cover you while you're abroad, but if an incident abroad requires further medical care after you get home, it will not continue to cover you. Before you go, have a physical and dental checkup so that you don't end up having an unexpected toothache or sickness of some kind. GeoBlue does not cover routine dental care in Europe. If you're traveling before or after the program, we strongly encourage you to purchase travel insurance for that leg of your trip. The GeoBlue also provides an app. You can find it in the App Store or Google Play. That app includes a provider finder so that you can find a medical provider, hospital, or pharmacy. It provides personal ID card with an emergency and non-emergency steps and contact information. You can request direct pay to the physician or the hospital through the app. You can find medicine equivalents, so if you're taking a medication, you can find out what it's called in French. You can do there's a drug translation guide, news and safety on your destination, other emergency contact information, and it is Touch ID enabled. So here's how you would, for example, find a medical provider in the GeoBlue app. You'd go into the app, click on Provider Finder, click on Doctor, find out a specialty, if it's a cardiologist or an orthopedic surgeon, and then select the doctor, and it will give you information about how to contact the doctor, and it will also, in fact, let you get the help of GeoBlue to arrange that. You could also find a hospital, and it has a list of hospitals in there. When you request direct payment, as we're traveling, there are 3 questions we want to ask. We want to ask, how can we keep ourselves secure, healthy, and safe? First of all, one of the things that will keep us safe and secure is situational awareness. You can take control of your own safety. Actively manage security risks, not merely wait for things to happen. So one example to actively manage security risk is to always be with someone else on the tour. Never be alone. Also, that's a very important one. Also, just being aware of your surroundings. So that, for example, you know that in England people drive on the left-hand side. So look to the right, then to the left, then to the right when you're in England. Be aware of your surroundings and understand that risks vary from country to country and location, morning to night, and so on. Europe is a very safe place to travel generally. However, note that there are some risks. So just be aware of those. Know the culture and local customs, how to dress, holidays, and so on. There are pickpockets in Europe and street scams. There are some techniques that they use. First of all, someone may approach you and start a conversation. The purpose of the conversation may simply be to distract you. So be aware of that. Sometimes someone may accidentally spill a substance, or they say accidentally spill something on your clothing and then offer to help clean it off. That's a good opportunity to distract you again and pick your pocket. Often or sometimes you'll have women or men using children to beg or otherwise distract you while they take something out of your bag. If you leave bags unattended, those are good targets for having them stolen. So never leave a bag or purse unattended. Sometimes someone will drop money or a ring in front of you, and you'll notice that. It'll distract you, and again, they'll be able to, while you're distracted, pick your pocket or your bag. And sometimes backpacks, purses, or cell phones could be snatched on the run, or someone may drive by on a moped and snatch them. So keep them close to your body and under your control as much as possible. To prevent some of these things, don't leave your personal items unattended. Carry only what you need. Don't carry excess things. In that way you can avoid carrying bulky bags and purses. Make them as small as possible. It's easier that way to keep them in control. Keep purses secure and carry wallets in an inside pocket. Now, even better, carry a wallet underneath your clothing. So if you have a security wallet, you can carry it around your neck and underneath the clothing, or clipped onto your belt and tucked down inside your pants. Those kinds of secure wallets are much more effective than just your regular pockets. Never carry something in your back pocket that you don't want to lose. Carry bags in front of you with the flaps against your body, and you can put your arm over it, especially if it's a crossbody bag, and that'll allow you to control it. Don't display your valuables so that people can see them. Try to be discreet. Avoid using electronic devices in public places, for example, especially since they can also be distracting. And avoid appearing wealthy by the way you dress. Dress normally. You don't have to worry about that, but you don't want to be flashy. About transportation. Minimize traveling alone. And of course, on this tour, the rule is you should always be with some other participant, at least one other participant, so you won't be traveling alone. Take only reliable transportation. A first-class bus, taxis with displayed accreditation, Uber, etc. Never get into a taxi that is not official. Someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, I can take you there for much less." Don't do it. They'll often take you off someplace and then demand more money in order to get you there. Never get in a taxi that already has another passenger. Try to take a taxi from your hotel or an official taxi stand, not one randomly off the street. Never travel at night from city to city, except of course if you're the whole group. No transportation and pedestrian laws and culture. Again, case in point, in England, notice how, as we're walking around, how the signs work and that they drive on the left-hand side. Never travel in unpopulated subway cars. That is, make certain that you're in a car with other people, not on your own. About money, ATM safety. Thieves use all kinds of techniques to try to steal your money. One is shoulder surfing. As you're typing in your PIN, they'll look over your shoulder. Another one is card trapping. They'll put a device on the ATM machine that'll trap your card inside. Then you go in to try to retrieve it, and meanwhile they're getting it from you. Skimming. You skim it. They put a device on that will skim your card's information, and then they can copy it and use it. It'll even have a little camera to record your PIN. So watch for those kinds of things. Be careful. Notice the little device here and how it doesn't quite fit onto the machine. Look for anything suspicious while you're using an ATM like that. So to prevent all of those, don't use ATMs at night. Avoid public machines. Try to use ATMs that are in secure locations like a bank or a hotel, especially where there's a surveillance camera. Thieves will generally tend to avoid those kinds of places. Be aware of others around you and potential scams. So look around, see that no one's looking over your shoulders, and also see that there are no devices that are awkwardly attached to the ATM machine. Don't let others handle your credit card. If you're having problems and someone comes up and offers to help you, don't hand them your credit card or debit card. Stand close to the machine and shield the pad. As you're entering in your PIN, put your hand over your other hand so that it's hidden. Discreetly put your money away, your card away. Don't flash the money around. Try to put it away while you're standing there. Don't walk off and put the money away. Put it right away before you leave. And it's often a good idea to count the money before you leave as well. And finally, if the machine does not return your card, this is why you should be with another person on the tour. Have the person stay there, go into the bank or whatever, and report that. Or if you're not at a bank, call the number that is indicated on the cash machine and report it. But if someone can stand there, do not leave the ATM machine, because there could have been a trap where they've trapped your card and someone will walk up and just take your card while you're in there trying to resolve it. So that's why it's always good to travel with someone else. Before you leave for Europe, be sure to talk to your financial institutions, your bank, your credit union. Let your banking institution know where you're going and when you are returning. If they don't know you're abroad, they may suspect fraud and freeze your ATM or credit card accounts. Take your bank's 24/7 fraud number with you. It should be on the back of your card, but write it down on a piece of paper and tuck it away somewhere in your luggage so that you can call them and cancel your card if necessary. Never complete financial transactions on an unsafe or public server. If you go to an internet cafe, don't log into your bank and do financial transactions. Even public Wi-Fi can sometimes be monitored, so it's good to use secure Wi-Fi sources if you're going to do banking transactions. Europe is relatively safe. There are very few violent crimes, but they may happen. So just in case, if you are robbed, mugged, or assaulted, remain calm, be cooperative, give them what they want. There's nothing you have that is more valuable than your life or your well-being. Avoid arguing with them and try not to be a hero. About personal safety, be aware that there may be sometimes kidnappings. They are very, very rare in Europe, and we've never had a student lost to a kidnapper. But just in case it ever happens, rather to avoid it, let someone know where you're going and when you're returning at all times. Remember, again, travel with others. Stay together. That will deter potential kidnappers. And even when you're traveling together, let other people in the group know what you're doing that day and where you'll be going and when you'll be returning. And let the leaders know as well. If you're ever going off in a smaller group or any kind of group, just let leaders know what's going on. Communicate with others in your group then on a regular basis. Minimize traveling alone, and in this case, never travel alone while you're on the tour. Stay together and watch out for each other. About sexual misconduct and harassment. BYU-Idaho prohibits sex discrimination against any participants in its education program or activities, including academic and performance tours. Prohibited sex discrimination includes incidents of sexual harassment, including sexual violence, dating violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. Collectively, these are called sexual misconduct. As an instructor, one of my responsibilities is to help create a safe learning environment for my students. University policy requires that I report all incidents of sexual misconduct that come to my attention. If you encounter any or witness sexual misconduct, please notify the Title IX officer, and I'll give you that information here in just a moment, at title9@byui.edu, or here's the phone number, 208-496-9209. Additional information about sexual misconduct is available on BYU-Idaho's Title IX website. About precautions against sexual misconduct or harassment. You need to dress conservatively and culturally appropriately so as not to draw unwanted attention to yourself. And I know that it seems sexist to say that, but in Europe, if you dress appropriately, that will minimize sexual harassment. Do not walk alone at night or in areas that are unfamiliar or questionable. So, of course, you'll never be alone at night because you'll always be with at least one other person on the trip. And even if you're with other people, try to avoid areas that seem clearly to be questionable. Do not agree to meet someone you do not know. You meet someone, they're friendly, don't say, oh, let's meet up someplace. Don't accept an invitation to a date or anything from anyone. Be aware that men may mistake the friendliness of American women for romantic interest. So avoid contact and eye contact, especially in smiling, especially if they're trying to get your attention. Just being friendly, the way Americans are, Europeans often interpret as a come on. Ignore street comments like whistles, catcalls, hissing, whispering. Don't react to it. Notice that most women in Europe will simply ignore it, pass it by, and don't respond. Implement mitigation strategies like staying in groups, walking arm in arm with your friend, or something like that. If you witness or are a victim of sexual misconduct or harassment, be sure to talk to the program director or one of the leaders. Contact local authorities if necessary, such as the U.S. Embassy or a local crisis center when appropriate, and seek medical attention immediately in the case of rape to preserve evidence. And here's the information for the Title IX office at BYU-I. It's Nick Rammel, again 208-496-9209, rammeln@byui.edu, and then we can also may also call the counseling center at any time. Additional resources for help when you're abroad. For rape and incest, there's Rape and Incest National Network. Live online chat with crisis counselors is offered 24/7. There's a sexual assault support and help for Americans abroad. It's called SASHA, SASHAA.org. And again, there's a help call center there. There's also the U.S. Consular Affairs. In an emergency involving U.S. citizens, you can call these numbers. I will have this presentation available as a PDF so that you can have the information at hand on your smartphone. About social media. When you're traveling, it's often good to be careful about social media. Be sure to personalize your privacy settings. Go through and set who can see what. Turn off geolocation on your social media accounts because sometimes stalkers may be able to access social media accounts and stalk you. Use secure internet connections when you're in the country. when you're participating in social media. Don't post personal or group information, especially where you live, stay, or your daily schedule. You can post general things like here we are in London, but don't put in the address of the hotel and other kinds of things and post it on Facebook. If you have concerns about what someone is saying to you online, report it to authorities, report it to the program director or to the leaders. Social media and cybercrime and virtual kidnappings, they are not unheard of. So one thing you might do is remove detailed personal information from your social media, and don't share personal information such as where you live. Use only secure servers again, and be aware of virtual kidnappings and scams. What that means is kidnapping virtually kidnapping you, your information, and sometimes coercing you to do things. So, photography sensitivities. It's great to take pictures in Europe, but there are some things to be aware of. Note that sometimes in local customs and religions, it's not appropriate to take pictures. In certain communities, it's not appropriate to take pictures. Be involved and participate with your subjects before the camera comes out. Don't just be behind the camera. Get to know people. And if you want to take a picture of someone, don't just haul out the camera, but go and talk to them, visit with them, and then ask, may I take your picture? Don't take pictures of government, police, military, and possible religious sites. Well, usually those aren't a problem in Europe, but there may be some secure facilities that you need to be aware of. If in doubt, ask for permission to take a picture. That's true in a museum or in any other sites that we visit. You could ask, are photos allowed? Don't just take pictures of a subject. Again, you've gotten to know them. Ask them, may I take your picture? And when you do it, show the picture to them and do something for them. Sometimes there is civil unrest in Europe. There may be boycotts or demonstrations, and sometimes even riots. It isn't very often, but if you ever see one, avoid getting involved. Don't get into violent situations. Stay clear of the protests. Be aware of anti-American sentiment and try to avoid exacerbating the situation. Terrorist attacks have happened in Europe. We hope they don't happen when we're there. We hope they don't happen at any time. But be sure to keep up with alert systems like STEP that we talked about. Avoid transportation at peak times, because those are the times often when there are terrorist attacks. So be aware of potential targets like government buildings and iconic locations. Doesn't mean you can't visit iconic locations, that's why we're there. But when we're there, be aware of that these can be targets and watch out. If you see something unusual, a bag left unattended, anything like that, someone acting in an unusual way, be sure to say something to the director or to local authorities like a police officer. We've never had an active shooter, but there have been active shooters in Europe. So if there is an active shooter, there are 3 things you can do. The first thing is run. Get out of the area as soon as possible. If you cannot escape and get out of the area, then hide. You can hide in a bathroom or closet, barricade yourself somewhere. If you cannot hide, then fight. Take out the shooter with the help of a group of people. But first, run, if at all possible. Well, that's the presentation. Remember to keep yourself safe, secure, and healthy in Europe. One thing about health, make certain, because we'll be there when it's hot, make certain you carry water with you and you drink a lot. Stay hydrated. Take some vitamins. Be sure to keep up on your medications if you have medications, and you'll be a happy traveler. GeoBlue will actually pay the doctor directly, and you don't have to pay anything. If the GeoBlue member hub states that you can avoid paying out of pocket for medical care and submitting claims by requesting direct pay prior to your appointment. But be aware that you may sometimes need to pay for medical care with a credit card and request reimbursement afterwards. If that's the case, be sure to get an itemized receipt with the following information. That is your name and the name and address of the provider, the name of the patient, the date of service, the amount charged for each service described, the diagnosis or reason for treatment, and the cost in local currency. So that's what should be on the itemized receipt so that you can be reimbursed. But if you get on the app and request direct pay, then hopefully you won't have to pay any money yourself.